Afternoon, everyone. My name is Francis, and I got like 19 minutes and 30 seconds because I know most of the time I get like 3 minutes and then people start phasing me out. If I'm really bad, maybe a minute. So thank you for your time and the privilege to be here. Really quick, I'm here to talk about Lexington House of ELKR, Indiana. Does anybody know the other clubhouse in ELKR County? Did anyone know the name? Show of hands. Sir, what is it? Do you know the name of it? Who said Cordell? And you said county clubhouse as well? So, challenge going to go to the challenge. So we give away money to nonprofit. The nonprofit is the money. Challenge going to Lexington House. Cordell House is now the official name of the other clubhouse in ELKR County, but the ELKR County Clubhouse has now two clubhouses. And Rich Meyer, who's the executive director, said when we would get a clubhouse, yeah, I forgot, thank you, Eric, I can't remember, I do drift. Sorry about those. Is that in ELKR County would get a second clubhouse, they would change their name. They're celebrating their 10th year, by the way, as clubhouse in this county, and we are going on our second year. So, next question. Does anybody know what building is at 120 Lexington Boulevard? What is it called? Come on, you guys are ELKR. Oh, Chris.
Lexington.
Well, yes and no. Good enough to get a challenge coin, but you already have one. So I'll give you two so you can give them to a friend. It's called the YWCA, right? It is a historical site, also known as Lexington House. And part of our story that I'm sharing today, we'll talk about that particular dot or element. And the third is about Rotary history. What was the second project of this Rotary Club? Give you a hint, 1917 was beginning of the origin, but anybody know what the second project you all took under? Nope. It's on the website.
Making a recommendation for Highway 33 coming through.
I would hug you if this wasn't that time of year, pandemic. That is absolutely correct. Back to the mic. You want to repeat the answer because you're spot on.
Studying and recommending the best route of 33 connecting us to St. Joe County, which became a merchandising route. Before that, we did not have that.
So your second project, 1917, your first project actually underway. The second one, I would assume would have been in that same time frame, was about, and I'm going to read it right from your website, and I'm going to tell you what the connection is to me presenting. A study and make a presentation to the Lincoln Highway Association to help determine the most acceptable western route of the Lincoln Highway, Route 33.
The historian should get that, you know.
That was pretty impressive, by the way, because most of us don't go to our own website. I went to yours, and when I saw that, that spoke to me because I am connected a lot to the Lincoln Highway. It has allowed me to do some things in my own personal life, and actually brought me here today in a roundabout way. But that's not what I'm going to talk about. That's for another conversation. So I was impressed that you all were connected to it. So we're going to connect three dots through today. One is going to be a little bit about me, less than a minute, because remember, I only had 3 minutes. Now I'm down to about a minute and a half. The second is really going to be about Lexington House of ELKR. And the third is going to be about Cordell House, connecting me to the broader scope of Clubhouse International. So before I go any further, How many nonprofits are in the room? Can I see your hands, please? Oh, wow, I'm impressed. All right, now the next question. How many social workers are in the room? Hey, whoa, blessings. Good to know, good to know. So how many people are familiar with the book, Good to Great? How many people know who's the author? Jim Collins. You already got a coin. Who else? Who else could say Jim Collins? Oh, right there. You're from Patrick. Patrick is not a. Oh, so the coins that are going out, by the way, if you're interested, you can see it's our brand. On the front side is Lexington House. It has a monarch butterfly in the back part of it. We were established in 2020. And by the way, that was in the middle of the early first year of the pandemic. And on the back side is the monarch in full color. And it talks about the journey of wellness. So you're familiar with Jim Collins, Good to Great, right? So most people in business for profit are. Those in nonprofit would know about this edition. This is an edition that I have used for many projects and in business over my 10 years serving this community, and that has been a while. When you say Chris has been connected for a while, Chris Pollock's a close friend of mine. We've done some very interesting things, most not for the table talk here, but we have been able to get kids out of IU who have been embedded. We're just talking about that, finally getting them out of IU Bloomington. So really quick about Francis, got 15 seconds on that. My education is I have a master's degree from Rutgers University of New Brunswick. Seems like a lifetime ago. Are you serious? No, oh, we got to talk later because you know what I'm saying. Wow. I'm sure things have changed because I'm old and you're not. Second is that I am a licensed clinical social worker by trade. And for those who may or may not know, licensed social work didn't really happen until 95 in Indiana. Prior to that was AC stuff. Anyway, I am one of those people. I've been in the trade for about 30, I have to look at my notes because I forget, 34 years, 27 years as a professional. Okay, really quick, 10 seconds left. I have 2 adult children, 1 RU grad and 1 Purdue. How many people have that combination in their family in the room? Yeah, right. Yeah, very interesting, very different combination. And then lastly, my employment history. I've had the great privilege to work for multiple nonprofits, and we have some of the best in the Midwest, in my opinion. One, I worked for Faith Mission at a place called the Annex. It was created in 2020, right at the beginning of the pandemic. By the way, Faith Mission is a godsend as a homeless shelter. I don't know where your position is on that, but I got to tell you, I am so blessed to work with and have them in our community. Second is that I've worked for Oaklawn, our community mental health center. How many counties in the state of Indiana? Yeah, that was too easy. I could be throwing coins out like candy. How many community mental health centers in the state of Indiana? 10. I hope we never get that low. But I got to tell you, last check I checked was about 25. So you do the math and the ratio, how blessed we are to have a community mental health center here in this community. So I worked for them for about 20 years. And one of the elements that I did with them is I was the community director support program for severely persistent mental conditions for people who had them, adults who basically had like schizophrenia, schizoaffective, and bipolar, major depression ongoing, and their families that were impacted. And great honor to work and serve this community. But I also had another title known as the gatekeeper. means I worked with the 5 state hospital programs around the state of Indiana for when our citizens needed to get treatment outside of our area. I would go down, be part of getting them linked and bringing them back if they would get back. And I would also be connected to the forensics state hospital, which is in Logansport. So I worked that for about 15 years. So that was part of my work for Oakland. And then there was this little side gig I did called the ELKR Flame Soccer Club. How many people have heard of that? Well, we did it in like 2005. Everybody steps in because of your kids. And at that point, they were saying, let's move it over to St. Joe County. And there was only like 40 people in the club. People like Chris Pollock and some other people stepped up and they said, this is ELKR. No, we're not leaving. By the time Chris and the board got done with it, I think we were like 400 to 500 athletes. I would say close to 50 teams and teams that played nationally and were known nationally from ELKR, Indiana. Side note of that, I did get to work directly with someone by the name of Rex Martin. We redid his soccer complex, which took a lot of pride watching and hearing people from Indianapolis drive up to ELKR, Indiana. And it took even more pride when they would go home with loss. Not that I'm a competitive person, but I'm a social worker by trade. But this is ELKR. But I got to tell you what I took even more pride from. We would host the last 3 big tournaments for the state before everything moved down to Westfield. And they would come from all over the state of Indiana, and they would come and they pull up to the person with the parking and they say, here's your money. And we're like, this is ELKR. We don't want your money to park. This is ELKR. Welcome to our community. That would double or triple when they would go out into our community, to our vendors, to our hotels and places in our eateries. That sent a message and they felt very warm in our community. That was one of my best parts of maybe 6 years of working for that nonprofit. And we had fun, didn't we, Chris? A lot of fun. All right, now, the whole purpose of me being here was really to talk about Lexington House, and I want to share about it. Clubhouses. Clubhouses have been around since 1948. Lexington House has been around since 2020, and I'm putting an asterisk next to that. It actually was here way before that, late 70s, early 80s. There was an onset of it. Oaklawn, our community mental health center, which I just talked about, had a place downtown called Lexington House. How many people actually ate at the Lexington House back in the day? I knew you did. I just did. Because it was a great place to eat, wasn't it? I keep hearing it. God, what's your first name?
My first name is Shannon.
Shannon, you and I are going to be friends because that's what I keep hearing about the food that was served at Lexington House. And it was delicious, but it still had purpose because it was very much like a clubhouse. And when I did my homework, I found out that the people who worked there went to Thresholds in Chicago, which was one of the training sites in the late 70s and early 80s. Eventually, Oakland pulled it back to the 2600 site and they built their hospital and what have you, but they had a wing called Community Support Program. Little did I know this history because I became the Community Support Director around 2001, and I didn't know anything about clubhouses. What is that? What is a clubhouse? Didn't know about it. Don't want to know about it. What is a clubhouse? Well, a clubhouse is a place that has the platforms of, first of all, it's a supportive community. To be a member of the clubhouse, not that complicated. 18 or over, history of mental illness. You're in the club and you're in it for life. What it is not a social club. It is not a halfway place. It is a place that people can get their confidence back and resiliency rebuilt. How does that happen? My wife asked me that after I took on the job. She goes, what do you do for a living? Work at a place called Clubhouse. Well, members, and that's the people who join, they run the clubhouse. So I still didn't get the concept, and the best way to get the concept of a clubhouse is come visit us, and you'll see it in action. I was talking to Judge Osterday over at the Aquatic Center. And this is about a year ago. She goes, Francis, you went off the grid for a while. I said, yeah, I did. I did some reconnaissance. I went and worked at the clubhouse in St. Joe County as a generalist because the best way to learn business is from the bottom up. So I went there and I learned, and I was blown away. I thought I knew what a clubhouse was. I wasn't until I was entrenched in it. And then I learned. I learned much. So I said, hey, we're standing in the Aquatic Center, which is a phenomenal building, by the way. I love going there. It's like you come here, there's simulators. There's different ways you can work out, but there's a golden thread for everybody who comes in here. Everybody wants to maintain or get better. Oh, so there's simulators. People can choose what they want to do, and they get better. And they have a common theme. So you can be training for an Ironman competition or a marathon over here, or you just want to get your cholesterol down. But at the end of the day, you're all at the Aquatic Center, and we're all in it together. That's a clubhouse. In 1948, a group of inpatient from Rockland State Hospital came down just north of Manhattan, and they went to the library steps, and they said, they don't get us, we got to stick together. How are we going to get back in the game? So they created a club called Wanans. We are not alone. I'd like you to hear that because that's a very important statement. We are not alone. That resonates in me because the first part of the clubhouse is just like we have here, we have fellowship. And if you've ever had the experience of being ill, physically, mentally, spiritually, all the above, there are sometimes indignities that go with it, and your family goes through it. When you go to clubhouse, there's no judgment. Everybody's kind of walked a similar path, so it's like going into the gym. Everybody in there got a common thing. There ain't no judgment. It's good stuff. So that's the first part of a clubhouse, is supportive community. Second part of a clubhouse is a work order day. What is that? All these whiteboards, my wife Betsy would say to me. I'm like, well, clubhouse is all voluntary. They being the members, run the club, and we are kind of sprinkled in the gaps as staff to make sure certain things get taken care of, like the keys and some of the finances, some bills get paid, those kind of deals. Make sense? So when I was at St. Joe County, my first day at club, I was sitting across from two college university graduates who are members, who could easily do much better on Quicken, which is the software, right, for bookkeeping. Trust me, not my gig. Remember, I'm a social worker. They're members, and they're teaching me. So Clubhouse has arranged because mental health, brain health, does not discriminate. So I'm like, okay, I get this. I've been in the business a very long time. I've seen what illness can really do to an individual and to families and communities at the highest degrees. And I've walked the path with their families. I've also had the opportunity to walk with people in recovery. And the Clubhouse is a recovery model. It's actually the first in the United States. So, okay, what do you do at a clubhouse? My wife would come back to me. That sounds great. Well, members gain confidence in taking on tasks of the day. So they can do everything from like running the software, our website, all our social media is not done by me or another staff or two. It's done by the members of the club. The majority of people who become members want to be members because they don't want to sit at home by themselves. Isolation, remember what I said, we are not alone? Pretty important piece because it incubates the illness, in my opinion. Coming out and joining other people like yourself really is moving it forward. Next part of the clubhouse, we have platforms, programs. I'm going to throw this out. I don't know if Karen and Jeff Pride will say anything to me. How many people know Label Logic, the business, right? We have partnered with them and we have members employed there. We also have members employed at Kroger. Part of a clubhouse is about getting people back in the game of life. And some of that work is through our transitional part of our employment, where we will go through application process. By the way, if you ever try to go online and get a job these days, it's not like back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s. This Indeed thing and doing everything on the computer, it's very intimidating and very scary. However, having a supportive person to walk through and not do it for you, but walk with you. And that's what Club is. We work side by side. We also do not just the application with you. We'll go to orientation. We'll go to the interview. People get their confidence getting back into the workforce. Very significant. I've seen it firsthand, and I'm all in. I'm all in. I mean, I'm at the back half of my career, and I just want to live and work in wellness. I'm all out of the other part of the illness. That makes sense? So Clubhouse has a program for employment. The other part is education. Often the case is first episode is 18 through 25, major illness happens for people who have an underlying condition. That is one of the side pieces of COVID. We've learned about underlying condition. Well, if you have a family history of underlying condition, 18 through 25 often comes out. We have 1, 2, 3. We're in our infancy. We have 3 who are now part of the Excel program that Goodwill runs. They're on the other side of the building we share. And they're going back to finish up. They were in like 11th grade, a few credits short, 12th. They have gotten back in the game. We offer support that way. We also offer support and provide opportunity to do socials to get out into the community. Give you a very good example, the 4-H fair of ELKR County. We had a hoot taking a van, going there for people who normally would not even get out of the house or their apartment because their anxiousness would not allow them or didn't want to interact with other people. We do socials on weekends, and we also do it during the work order day after 4:30. It is an opportunity to come together to interact like you all are doing here with other people on this planet during our time. So there's some of the platforms for Clubhouse. Clubhouse 1948 is when it really started out. Today, there is about 330 clubhouses around the world. There's 220 in the United States. Approximately in the great state of Indiana, there are 11. In ELKR County, there are 2. What does that say about our community? Well, I'm going to tell you what it says about our community. Back in September last year, we were on a Zoom call with a Clubhouse faculty member. I'm going to talk about Clubhouse International in a minute. And the first question from Serge, it's the name of the gentleman, he's from Finland. He says, so I got a question for you. Serge, really very interesting man. I got to know some of his history. Why are you opening a business in the middle of a pandemic? First question out of his mouth. And I didn't blink. Couldn't be a better time. And this is Elkhart, Indiana. I have no doubt it will be successful. We started off with around 4K, little seed money from our steering committee and grassroots committee, incubating it for about 2 years prior. We finished out in 21 with the budget around 92K. We have a 252K budget for this year. Our finances are through grants and private donation. That allows us to keep a good, clear vision of what our purpose is, rather than the process of paperwork. Does that make sense? We have approximately 77 members of the club, and we have an average attendance daily around 8. So that means every day, 8 people are using that club. That does not include the people who are doing part-time work or going to school. We're growing. Okay. I'm going to pause. Any quick question, because I want to be sensitive to time. It's 12:53. I want to make sure I hit points that people want to maybe have a quick question or two. If not, I'm going to talk and finish it out really quick about Clubhouse International. So let me tell you about the pride of, oh, yes, sir.
Do you have any counseling or any part of suicide prevention? That's so much used today.
Sure.
Young woman.
So we do not do clinical work. However, what I can tell you is this, and again, I don't want to devalue that what you just asked. I would say, because we have a community mental health center like in Oakland, those places would be the best. One more time, sir. Your question about suicide prevention and therapy around that, or counseling. I would definitely defer to a place like Oakland. What I can tell you is this, Clubhouse International, first part, is the governing body of these 320, 220, 11 clubhouses I just talked about. You go through an accreditation process where evidence-based program, that means it's been shown that it works, and not just shown, there's evidence that shows that it works. It's people back into the game of life. Clubhouse International started doing accreditations in '92. Only 3 clubhouses on record have received accreditation within 1 year or less. Okay, 330 clubhouses around the world, only 3. One is in Finland. The other 2 are in ELKR County. Our clubhouse did it with 3 days to spare because there are 37 standards. Again, when I go back to my friend Serge, I said, this is ELKR. This is not me. This is ELKR, our community. We are a very proud group of people. We figure things out and we move it forward. Clubhouse International invited us to be part of something in February. We joined 23 other clubhouses around the world to be ambassadors. I mean, these are some big hitters. I mean, out of Australia, Germany, New York City, Utah, ELKR, Indiana is among that group. Your community, my community. We are in our infancy state. We have a long way to go. Where are you, by the way? Good question. Thank you. The question is, we're at 2626 Prairie Street, the River of Life Church. If you have never been there, they have launched multiple nonprofits, by the way. Pastor Janet Cook and their congregation are just wonderful, wonderful hosts to us. We do not plan to stay there. It's like a nursery, I tell people. We're moving on, okay? We have our sites to move on into the community where we can meet closer to people that we work with. Would like to do a quick shout out to one of our big partners, because without them, we don't move it forward. In August of 2020, when we said, all right, we're all in, we hired an executive director and we have no money to pay. Great, he's willing to work pro bono. Right, I'm a social worker. They saw me coming, big tag. So we said, let's do a grant. Hey, Community Foundation, ELKR County. Oh, let's do a challenge grant. That means raise it, you get it, right? It's not easy. You have to be vetted. Community Foundation, they're the gold standard. Well, they came back and they said to myself and Rich Meyer, the other director, yeah, we're going to give you these grants for 3 years, raise $100,000 in the middle of the pandemic. And by the way, you're still pending nonprofit and you really don't have much going on. We're with you. ELKR, Indiana, from November 1st to April 27th, we raised $110,000. Okay? We're on our 2nd year of our challenge grant. And we're looking at the 3rd. That is power to the board, power to the Community Foundation, and United Way, who I've been writing grants a good chunk of my professional life. We get a nice grant to United Way for $25K, right? Nice. They sent us back $37.5. They did their homework on Clubhouse. Paved the way by Cordell House, AKA County Clubhouse. All right, so it's almost 1 o'clock. I can talk forever on Clubhouse. Any other quick questions about it? Was this helpful? Yes, sir. All the way in the back. And by the way, your jokes, but
And your website is
lexingtonhouse.org. Pardon?
for people to find out other information.
Absolutely. Thank you for pulling that out. I will leave our business cards, by the way. Clubhouse, I don't got business cards. We have colleague club cards, and it has all our social media in a piece. Please go check us out. We do a newsletter called The Ledger. It's very informative, and for someone who reads but doesn't write very well, we have some good writers from the club. Gives you our footprints. Any other quick questions? All right, so before everybody gets up, was this worth your time? I mean, thank you.